With an entity as big and as lucrative as the Star Wars franchise, legal proceedings are par for the course. On the one side, you have Disney and Lucasfilm who will do what they feel is necessary to protect their intellectual property, and on the other, you have people who feel like they might be owed something and so therefore decide to take a legal shot at Star Wars as corporate overlords. And sometimes, as you can imagine, things get very, very strange very, very quickly. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 biggest and weirdest lawsuits in Star Wars history. Number 10. A Star Wars fan's AT-AT dream gets tripped up by the legal system. In 2011, Star Wars superfan Michael Kohler decided that he wanted to do something insane, yet also incredibly cool. He wanted to build a life-sized AT-AT. Not only that, he actually wanted it to be functional as well, with Kohler noting that the epic project had received some early support from roboticists, engineers, and even some brain bods from MIT. Naming his campaign AT-AT for America, the idea was to recruit people from all over the US, who would then build individual parts of the machine in their own locations before the final product was pieced together near Kohler's home. It sounded like an admirable venture, but unfortunately, those mighty AT-ATs are no match for Lucasfilm's all-powerful lawyers. The company's legal arm went after AT-AT from America and shut the project down, forcing Kohler to refund the donations that he'd already received. Number 9. Lucasfilm says no to a cinematic Star Wars convention. Now, it's not often that you'll find someone brave enough to take on a huge corporation like Lucasfilm, but in 2018, one Buckinghamshire business owner clearly felt like the force was in his favour. Mark John, whose business involved streaming live events into cinemas, sued Lucasfilm after its lawyers blocked his plan to beam footage from a Star Wars convention to over 1,200 theatre screens. A live Q&A session with Darth Vader actor David Prowse was the centrepiece of this footage, which also included other highlights, including a professional demonstration of how to wield a lightsaber like a Jedi. Now, at face value, it doesn't seem like there's much for Lucasfilm to be concerned about here, but it was apparently the timing of the broadcast that prompted them to step in. You see, Mr. John over here had planned to beam out the convention footage in December 2015, just prior to the release of Star Wars The Force Awakens. Rather strangely, Lucasfilm felt like this would dilute the launch of their eagerly anticipated blockbuster. Mr. John, on the other hand, it was actually his case that won out. A High Court judge ruled in his favour, and Lucasfilm was ordered to pay him £39,504 in damages. Number 8. Disney takes The Force Awakens secrecy to a very expensive level. Now, nobody likes movies being spoiled for them, but it's not exactly a crime that's worthy of legal punishment, or so you would think. In early 2015, Disney sat its lawyers on the case after a spoilerific image from Star Wars The Force Awakens appeared online, which at the time was just under a year from release. These images allegedly depicted what we now know to be Kylo Ren and his red crossguard lightsaber, with the House of Mouse wanting to actually take this case to court in an effort to unmask the anonymous uploader. Image Shack, the website on which it was published, swiftly deleted the offending material, and it's not clear how far the case went. Disney was seeking up to $150,000 from liable parties, which is pocket change for a company of that size. But regardless, the message was clear: don't spoil Star Wars, or you shall incur the wrath of the mouse. Number 7. George Lucas's Force powers proved to be too strong for Jedi Mind. Now, Jedi Mind Inc. was a tech company that claimed to have developed a special kind of wireless headset, one that allowed users to play games and run software using the power of their thoughts. Now, considering the company's name and the fact that it sold products like Mastermind and Jedi Mouse, it was only a matter of time before Lucasfilm came knocking. Sure enough, that happened in August 2010, with Lucas and his legal troopers filing a $5 million trademark lawsuit against Jedi Mind, alleging that its products would cause confusion in the marketplace. As if to ward off any other potential infringers, Lucasfilm also touted a list of Jedi-associated characteristics it had legal hold over, including Jedi robes, lightsabers, the power to levitate objects, and the ability to shoot Force lightning from the fingertips. A short while later, Jedi Mind opted to change its name to Mind Technologies Inc., while completely ceasing use of the Jedi name, which is probably for the best. Number 6. A lightsaber lookalike is told to cease and desist. Now, anyone who's seen a Star Wars film has probably wished that they could own an actual lightsaber. Sure, you can buy those cheap plastic replicas, but they're not quite the same as the powerful weapons wielded by Yoda, Obi-Wan, and the rest of the Jedi on screen. Enter Wicked Lasers, a company that produced high-powered laser products that were deemed by Lucasfilm to bear too strong a resemblance to the lightsabers seen in the Star Wars movies. It's apparent from the design of the Pro-Arctic lighter that it was intended to resemble the hilt of our lightsaber swords, which are protected by copyright.
copyright,"
said a cease and desist letter sent by Lucasfilm in June 2010. Now, Wicked Laser's CEO at the time called Lucasfilm's attack ridiculous, stating that the Pro-Arctic laser was never meant to resemble a lightsaber or infringe on any Star Wars copyrights. I mean, there are only so many ways you can design a handheld laser after all. Lucasfilm dropped the case roughly a month later, allowing consumers to keep swinging those lasers to their heart's content. Number 5. The Force is too strong with Battlestar Galactica. Though George Lucas and 20th Century Fox have had very little faith in the film, it became apparent that Star Wars was a massive success almost as soon as it debuted in 1977. And where there's massive success, there are of course going to be copycats. Wanting to have its own blockbuster space set franchise, Universal went ahead and produced the TV series Battlestar Galactica, which debuted in 1978. Revolving around warrior robots, spaceships, and a galactic war, the similarities to Star Wars were readily apparent, something that Fox couldn't help but notice. As a result, the studio decided to sue Universal for copyright infringement, but this move didn't have the result that they actually thought it would. The Central District of California granted summary judgment, believing that Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica were only similar on the most general levels of intellectual abstraction, basically meaning they were both set in space. The case was soon remanded and settled, and Battlestar Galactica was ultimately cancelled in 1979. It was later revived in 2004, going on to become one of the most critically lauded TV shows of recent times. So take that, Star Wars. Number 4. These are the droids that Lucasfilm is looking for. Though the word android has been around for a couple of centuries at this point, it didn't start to become popularized until much more recently. In fact, the original Star Wars is one of the mid-20th century works that is credited with bringing the word more into the forefront. More specifically, the shortened version, droid, was first used by Lucas in that film, something that ended up leading to a rather bizarre legal standoff over 30 years later. In the late 2000s, Lucasfilm actually trademarked the word droid. Yes, really. This filing mentioned that it should cover all kinds of technology and devices, including mobile phones, computer software, and digital cameras. So when Verizon released its Droid line of mobile phones a short while later, the company had to seek Lucasfilm's permission to use that term. In 2010, Lucasfilm's lawyers opt to vigorously defend their Droid trademark by sending a cease and desist letter to Matt Cooper, the CEO of digital advertising startup Adroid. Cooper reportedly contacted Lucasfilm and was told that the case wouldn't be let go without a fight, which seems more than a little harsh considering that nobody in their right mind would associate R2-D2 and C-3PO with a random advertising business. Number 3. Disney shuts down a lightsaber school. Now, Disney might be the biggest family entertainment brand in the galaxy, but when it comes to defending its intellectual property, even a bunch of kids swinging lightsabers around apparently aren't safe from its mighty legal fist. In 2016, the now Disney-owned Lucasfilm filed a lawsuit against Lightsaber Academy, which, as the name suggests, aimed to teach people how to wield those elegant Jedi weapons. But since its owner, Michael Brown, didn't have Lucasfilm or Disney's permission to do this, it's no surprise that the two corporations took umbrage with his particular line of business.
Defendants are in the business of promoting, producing, offering for sale, and selling unauthorized lightsaber classes, which purport to teach students how to use lightsabers and/or perform as a Jedi,
read the lawsuit. Lucasfilm sought a permanent injunction and actual damages and profits, or alternatively, up to $2 million in damages for each infringed trademark. Number 2. Lucasfilm strikes back against President Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative. Fresh off the success of the original trilogy, Star Wars was at the height of its powers. Not only had it infiltrated every corner of the pop culture world, but it had also infiltrated every corner of the world full stop. By 1985, it had grown so ubiquitous that it was even used as a shorthand way to describe US President Ronald Reagan's proposal for a space-based missile defense system. Widely known as the Strategic Defense Initiative, or SDI for short, this system was the subject of a TV commercial that attempted to simplify what it was all about. To that end, it used animated characters of children's drawings, complete with a young girl giving a voiceover that began with the line, "I asked my daddy what this Star Wars stuff is all about." The thing is that Lucasfilm wasn't best pleased with its Star Wars brand being used to describe an anti-missile program, and so, in November 1985, the studio filed a lawsuit accusing the ad makers of trademark infringement, unfair practices, and disparagement, and sought to have the ad altered or even banned from television entirely. A few weeks later, a court ruled that Lucasfilm had no right to prohibit the use of the term Star Wars in this particular context, and that, unless said phrasing was being used for commercial gain, the trademark could not be infringed. And number 1, copyright infringement, a STARBALLZ story. In life, three things are inevitable: death, taxes, and porn parodies. As one of the biggest entertainment franchises in the history of the galaxy, Star Wars is obviously no exception to that rule. And though there's obviously a market out there for that sort of thing, George Lucas is apparently having none of it. In 2001, Lucasfilm sued the makers of an X-rated animated parody called STARBALLZ, alleging that the flick was a clear rip-off of Star Wars. STARBALLZ apparently followed Wank Solo on a mission to rescue a horny princess from the evil Ass Star, all the while contending with his main enemy, Lord Limp Bizkit. All things considered, it's not hard to see where Lucasfilm was coming from. Hilariously, the lawsuit claimed that consumers could get the wrong impression, and that some people would believe that STARBALLZ actually had Lucas's backing. In response, the producers of STARBALLZ insisted that the movie was a scary movie-esque parody of several different films, including Die Hard, Titanic, and The Matrix. Ultimately, Lucasfilm's argument was rejected, with a judge stating that the Star Wars films are so famous that it is extremely unlikely that consumers would believe that STARBALLZ is associated with Star Wars or Lucasfilm. Talk about stating the bloody obvious. And there we go, my friends. Those were the 10 biggest and weirdest lawsuits in Star Wars history. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, but the O is a 0, or you can follow me over on Instagram where it's the same handle, RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. I hope that you are treating yourself with love and respect, my friend, because you deserve all the best things in life, alright? Like love, happiness, and success. And do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, alright? I believe in you. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.